Anchoring in neuro-linguistic programming is the concept of linking a gesture, a word, or an image to a certain feeling. By doing so, you can condition certain people's emotional responses to change in your presence. For decades, obviously, salespeople and politicians of all sorts have used this technique to get what they want out of life. And in the context of dating, many guys have elaborated on how they could use that technique during a date, probably 5.5 minutes after the very concept of anchoring was ever invented. But the biggest problem with anchoring, whether you want to use it during a date, in sales, in therapy, whenever you want, it is not really how to do the anchor. You can just do a gesture, you can look at the person in a certain way. It is not the problem of how to do this, it is the problem of at which moment do you do it and how can you know this is really the right moment or not. Most guys presuppose they do have a strong emotional reaction in front of them when they describe some sensual story or some story about an emotional connection, and they believe, yeah, now it's fine, I have recited all my lines, now she gets into the hypnotic state and I can anchor this. Many times, especially if you are a beginner, no, she's not in the right state just yet. And if you don't trust me, you have a simple way to measure that. Once you trigger the anchor again, does she get the feeling again or not? If it is not the case, obviously I'm right, because you did not measure the right emotional state at the moment you anchored. So how to lead her mind to the right emotional state and how to make sure she is there at the moment you use the anchor? I would argue the biggest criteria is nothing but your calibration skills. For that I have a complete course explaining how I have developed my eyes and my ears to measure when what I am doing is working or not. How can you read body language so that you know at which moment the person is escalating emotionally and at which moment their emotions are just getting away from the state you want, and adapt accordingly. In the beginning, you just need basic levels of trust and rapport. You measure that by seeing her body language leaning toward you, when she gets closer to you, if her feet and her ankles and even her hands are really always pointed at you. Eventually, if she's also tilting her head on the side, means that she is deeply, widely listening to you, and how active she is participating in the conversation. If she's agreeing with you quite often, if she has many things to explain about the things you talk about, then it is definitely a good first level introduction to then lead her mind to more intense states in your presence. Once you want to escalate things, the topics I personally use of conversation are always the same. Either it is about male-female relationships. How do you think men and women should meet, or like our meeting today? Do you think there is a better way for men and women to meet and connect nowadays? Yes, no? Do you think it is easier today than before? Yes or no? Why do you think so? Just get her engaged by revealing to you her ideas, her opinions, her processes for what does she think is a good relationship between a man and a woman, or between the same sex if it is your thing, and how can you start from there to evocate more pleasurable states. You might also use the topic of the dream lover. Who is the person you loved the most, or if there was one man on earth you would love, what are the best qualities he would have, and just get her more immersed into this, up to the point where you see the signals, you calibrate the signals that makes you understand she is ready for anchoring here. The signals are, for example, when her breathing is slowing down. When she starts slowing down, if she's super active in the conversation, that is a good first sign she likes the conversation with you. That is not, though, yet the point where you can escalate to more sensual things. To escalate, you need her to slow down, to get down into a deeper state, to get more comfortable and more loosened up around you. So when she's slowing down her breath, when she's intensely staring at you without blinking too much, and when she has her lips getting bigger, this one came from Milton Erickson. When he wanted to kiss a lady, he noticed that she was ready for the kiss when her lower lip was getting filled with more blood. That is something to be aware of visually, just the kind of signals that let you understand she is experiencing a more enjoyable state at this moment. From there, okay, you have the foundation, and there, yes, you can encore the state to use it again the next time you have a date with her, or even if it is something with words, you can use that through texting again when you text her the next day or the same day. At this point, when you start anchoring, I would say there are 3 main levels of intensity based on the way you use it. The first one is what everybody knows who has read any basic book from NLP on anchoring. It is the idea of using one gesture or one facial expression, anything visually she can see, or a gesture like this, or a gesture like this, any gesture that will amplify the state, anything like this. When you notice what this state feels like, can you notice this? Any gesture like this can be used as an encore for her visually. It has to be used though, again, at the moment you have noticed she was getting so much entranced with what you say. And at this moment you say, you see Karen, right now when you feel this kind of feeling, I know for myself when I feel this, things are different in my life. Do you want to know why? Because when I have felt this the first time, and you amplify, you build up the encore like this can be impressive, but I would say this is just the first level of intensity. The second level of intensity, bigger this time, and kind of more difficult, is to stack up different encores, many different encores at the same time. When you use different encores, one for a feeling of connection, one for a feeling of pleasure, right here, because you have described before how the first time you made love with somebody, it was really special because she really understood you. And do you have an experience like this? You don't have to tell me what it is. I just remember when I felt this the first time. Okay, now I have encored the displacement right here to the feeling I was describing, and again it has to be encored when you notice she was already kind of getting into the pleasurable state herself. Then you can do that, and now if I have 2 encores with this one and this one at the same time, I can play with all of those encores and multiply them in the conversation to stack up even more feelings for her. And last one but not least, level 3, eventually the most difficult but also the most powerful, is when you stop trying to create your own encores and you instead use the encores she already have available to her.
Anything you did would never get back to anyone who did know you. What kind of things did you find yourself wanting to try? Now, she just did something interesting. What was her self-anchor that puts her into that state of fantasy? What did she do with the rose? What was the sound she made? That's a good sound. So one thing I would do is repeat back her sound.
Any woman, when you ask her to describe her emotional experiences about guys, about love, about sexuality, about anything, when she really gets back into that state, like any human being, will have some gesture or some facial expression or some kind of overall behavior to experience back the state. And for example, she might do like this, she might touch her throat, she might touch her lips like this. Any encore she already has, you are going to steal her encore and do the same thing at the moment you describe your own story. It can be a gesture, it can also be a word. If when she talks about the best experience she had with a guy, she says, he just made me feel so special, like we were in a private place together. Okay, so special in a private place together. You use those exact same words next time you text her and next time you describe a story of yours for what you have experienced in the past. It is called verbal flexibility. Instead of using only your own language, you also use the language she has used. And people who are in love anyway just do that naturally. And when you want to accelerate the process with her, even if she was a stranger yesterday, you can use those techniques to make the conversation more stimulating, not only for her, but also for you. And if you want some of the best language patterns I have ever found, for myself at least, to tantalize her mind in deeper ways, case, you have a list of them down below with the explanations for why they work so well and how to adapt to your specific case, to the kind of language you have, because obviously the point is not to ask static questions that are supposed to trigger the unconscious mind. The point is to understand the concepts behind them and apply them to the way you naturally speak to somebody. So you have all of those language patterns down below. I will be glad if you use them as soon as tonight, or at least during this week. And thanks a lot for watching. You can download that right now, and see you soon in the next video.